Tonight on the Indie Wave, his work has been described as ethereal, ambient, dreamish, and new age by critics. Shan Graves is the project's core member who writes the majority and produces all of Post Omnis' music. And tonight we discuss Getting Found in 2026 on the eve of his newest release. And that's coming up tonight on the Indie Wave. We talk with Shan Graves of Post Omnis.
Welcome to the Indie Wave, the show where we peel back the layers of the music industry to reveal the core of the music we all love and appreciate. Coming from Klamath Falls, Oregon, we're working to show you the independent artists that are breaking the mold in music land and tearing up the interweb and charts to reach everyone in America. Welcome to the Indie Wave with your host, Christopher Jerman.
Hey there, folks. This is the Indie Wave, and we have a very special guest today because we're going to be doing all things ethereal. This is the gentleman that I have today. He is a master of mood music. He's a master of inspirational music. He's a master of all kinds of things, and I love this guy's playlist. I can't get enough of it, and I've been listening to it pretty much nonstop for the last week and a half since he scheduled a Zoom call with me. But let me read you a little bit about him first before we get into this. Post Omni's style and genre have been described as ethereal, ambient, dream, and new age by critics. Their music integrates layered hardware and software synthesizers with live piano, vocals, and percussion. Shan Graves and featured artists is the project's core member who writes the majority and produces all of Post Omni's music. This also includes collaborations with various guest vocalists and instrumentalists, some of whom are credited as co-writers of songs. And the projects have cited a variety of musical artists, including Fleetwood Mac, Conjure One, Enigma, Delirium, and the Electronic Light Orchestra as having been influential in developing their sound. Now, without further ado, please let me introduce you to Shan Graves, who is the mastermind behind Post Omnis.
Hello, Christopher.
Hey, I thank you for joining me today. And I have been listening to you. I've downloaded your playlist, and it is playing on my Spotify right now, as a matter of fact. And I really like your work.
Thank you.
Tell me how you got into this kind of thing.
Good Lord. Okay, let's throw it all the way back to the early 2000s, man.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, first and foremost, I just want to throw it out there. You're in Klamath Falls, right?
I am.
Yeah, because I heard your Ray Shehan interview just a couple days ago, 6 days ago or something like that.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been in your stomping grounds. This whole thing started in a little burg called Coos Bay, North Bend, Oregon.
I know exactly where Coos Bay is, actually.
Yeah, right. So there I was, a 13-year-old, and a neighbor of mine, he happened to be a producer at the local news station, and he was like, he saw the piano there in the house, and I would play and things like that. And he was like, do you know what Acid Pro is? And I was like, what is this? So he taught me how to produce music with Acid Pro loops, all those things. Do you remember those days?
I kind of remember those days.
Kinda
I was actually a
yeah.
sailor at that time, and I wasn't doing
Me
anything
too, yeah.
media, but
Yeah, so if for those who don't know, SoundCloud was not the OG, right? Like, it was all about Sonic Foundry, Acid Pro by Sony, and so there was charts, there were all sorts of indie artists out there, and so 13-year-old me, I decided to just throw my hand into it, and I was a part of a band early on, and then we moved to Oklahoma, and then that's where Post Omnis really started to shape its identity with industrial ambient sounds with that amen drum beat to it, and just exploring production, and stuff like that. And so yeah, that was from 2000 to 2006, and then from 2006 we did I love how people were like, "Do you know what burning a CD is?" And they're like, "What's that?" Like you like literally light a CD on fire.
I'm old enough. I know what burning a CD is.
Right, right. And so like I would be, handing demos out to to my friends at school and stuff like that. And so that happened, and then 2008 rolls around, and this is where our first like actual like piece of music really came together. It was a duo group. It started off as a duo group, and then after Insomniac People, I moved to Washington to Bremerton Island. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Bainbridge Island near Bremerton. And then I joined the Navy. And for 10 years, I was sailing around the world and exploring new sounds and grabbing things from France to Spain to Greece and England. I mean, there was just the world was an oyster. Even like in the Middle East with like Bahrain and Dubai and all the sonic sounds and culture you can get from those places. And I would bring them home between deployments and work on an album, and that is kind of part of the DNA of the music project, as
Well,
well as like finding new artists locally or otherwise wherever my feet take me, and then I'm like, hey, let's collaborate.
I listened to a similar kind of artist, Perov Stellar, and
Hmm.
I he mixes a bunch of big band stuff in with what he does. But the truth of the matter is that you're all of the same ilk, and it's this layering of music and it's layering of sounds really puts it puts ethereal, ambient, and dream really that sums it up perfectly, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And like the influences there, like I mean my parents were they're kind of weird. We can always look back and be like, "Oh, let's over critique our parents." But yeah, man, I had Fleetwood Mac, Electric Light Orchestra, like the Face the Music album, like oh, like that is like every time I hear those bands, I'm like taken back to my childhood and reminded that like Kristen McVie's piano chords, her jazz chords, which by the way, with her passing away years ago, I was just like, oh man, now we're never gonna get a Fleetwood Mac concert ever again. Um, but yeah, it was just it's part of the DNA of that. I started off on pianos and then I slowly moved over to synthesizers. Um, and now I'm into like totally into Eurorack and just exploring like what beat boot machines can be created,
Well, and
just
I
explore
love your
sound.
shot right here because I'm looking at you and you have this wired mess behind you there, and it's like you're building a bomb there or something like that. But I know it's music.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, and actually this machine here, it's my Eurorack case. It's pretty much it's what I think like what most synthesis folks would call like their Ferrari, if you will. Um, and so this whole thing, like you can hear it in pretty much the whole new album that we're putting out there, February 20th, called Mysticism. And it's based off of this project started like 5 years ago. I realized like there's not really like a blueprint. Like no one ever really kind of gives like a good idea of like how to get into Eurorack. And there's like the simple things of like oscillators, filters, amplifiers, and sequencers and things like that. But like I really wanted a Buchla, and Buchla's kind of expensive. Like it's a big that's a West Coast brand there. And so I just decided, you know what if I tried finding like pieces of Eurorack, you know, curated modules and try to emulate what a Buchla does. And that's exactly what this thing does. So all kinds of different swirled effects and panning and reverb and all that stuff like goes into it. And this thing has really taught me a lot about synthesis, like through and through. Like as opposed to like keyboards and sliders and things like that. Like
Well, I have
it's
to ask you,
very
what did you
tactile.
do in the Navy? What was your job in the Navy?
Oh man, I was a aviation maintenance administrator. So like I was on the air side, aviation side, and before that, I joined as a corpsman, and then I realized I really don't want to be a corpsman. Like, it seems like, yeah, don't really want to do that. So I was a undesignated for about a year's time, and then after that, like probably like half a year, and then I became a AZ essentially.
It
How
just
about
seems to
yourself?
me that
Because you said
somebody
you were in
with
the
your
Navy
talents
too.
would have done some amazing work in submarines. And I mean, you could play with that thing and turn that into a giant stereo system there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there was speaking of sonar technicians, man, like I would befriend folks on the carrier and I'd be like, "Hey, you got any like sound recordings?" And you would hear like pings or whale songs or just like people randomly talking, and I'd have them on like, flash drive or CD, and I would just slice, cut, and all kinds of
Just mix it
effects
all
on it and
together.
just mangle it all up or just sample it, like, yeah. It takes me all the way back to 20, like, the early 2000s again with like acid loops and um sampling and cutting and splicing and rearranging sounds to just make something called a song.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I also I'm getting smacks of Nine Inch Nails in here. I'm getting smacks
Yeah.
of all kinds of, there's all these different bands over the years that have sampled sounds and have been mixing sounds together, and it feels like everybody is piled into you.
Well, it's like, oh, gosh, like even like Nine Inch Nails, Frontline Assembly, gosh, Throbbing Gristle, the old classic 19, I would say 80s, maybe even like late 70s, industrial bands. I honestly, industrial was like the soundtrack of my high school life,
Uh-huh.
and especially being in like a place that's like, I don't want to throw Oklahoma out there like that, but it's very conservative. So, when you're that kid, yeah, it's you are that kid. You know what I mean? You're that person. And um so my friends and I would be throwing just different inspirations, things like that. And it's not like beyond any means that I didn't listen to like um Toby Keith or Kenny Chesney or Miranda Lambert or anybody like that. Of course I would, but like uh yeah, like I think that it's very impossible to not do little nods to other artists that come before and um, take inspiration from what they do too. Yeah,
I have a funny
absolutely.
story about the Electric Light Orchestra since you mentioned that.
Yeah,
My father back in the day asked me for a Electric Light Orchestra album when he was
yeah.
he had just my parents had just gotten divorced, and he was asking for an Electric Light album. And I didn't know about the Electric Light Orchestra when I was 9 years old when I bought that album. So I bought him Eddie Grant's Electric Avenue, which is completely different than the Electric Light Orchestra. But apparently he played the album. He played Eddie Grant. He liked it apparently. So I don't know,
Because
but it's not
reading
the
is
same.
what? Fundamental.
Well,
Classic.
so what are you doing right now? What is your
Oh man.
your plan du jour?
My plan du jour right now is, promoting this album here. Because we got like 20 days as of tomorrow to really push this one out there. And this here, I feel like is like right now the most ideal album for this music project. We've got so many different vocalists on it, and we've got so many different styles of music in it, for everything from like, my heart's always been in classical music because like, I began on piano, living in Germany and having a very strict piano teacher with the ruler and smacking your hand if you were off beat just by a millisecond. And like everything from pianos to just drum and bass to trip hop to ethereal and goth and ambient and industrial. It's like there's so many different. I think everybody who enjoys electronic music and appreciates sound for what sound is, art for art's sake, will enjoy this album. And This is honestly the hardest I've ever pushed an album before. Like most independent artists, like I think like coming into it, they're confused with like all the information bombardment from blogs of like what to do next and all that stuff. And so I really try to hunker down for like the last 6 months and just be like just studious. I'm like, okay, what should I do in the next 6 months and how should I do this? What people can I contact and just say hi to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like
What
that's
what what kind of artists do you have on this new album coming up?
well, okay, so we have Evangel, who is currently on our first single from the album, When I See Your Eyes, and she's a local in the California area. And an oldie but a goodie from 2015, our release, not from Not Another Downpour, Talia Swing comes back to grace us on a track called 2025. And then we have KCB from Turn to Stone, who also graces our album again on, oh, let me look at that track listing one more time. Chaos and Rain. And then myself on a couple of tracks here or there. And that's really it. We've got a lot of different like I said, styles in between, from like I said, goth to trip hop, industrial, drum and bass to, ethereal,
And this is an entire album of ethereal music, of ambient music, of all
Yeah.
kinds of wild machinations of the scales that can come together on
Yeah.
this album, and it's gonna take the world by storm, right?
I hope so. I really do hope so. I mean, I think that's like for the past like oh my gosh, I would like to say like 4 or 5 years. I'm trying to look at like when I started streaming, because I wanted, I came back from a 10-month deployment on the Lincoln, right? And immediately 2 months later, we're back to, the 2020s pandemic, right? So we really felt like we were on deployment again, but at home,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, I just turned on the computer, started streaming, and I would play live in front of folks on streaming and come up with ideas and just record, and all those recordings came into what is like the top 10 or 11 possibly like songs that I could see being an album, like a total piece of music that someone could listen from bookend to bookend, or a song here or there and just really enjoy and immerse themselves into.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the interesting part that we're at right now in terms of society, in terms of getting music out there, is that unless you're going to get signed, which may or may not happen, but the point of the matter is that you have to show up on NPR, and you have to sell your music to NPR and get somebody to recommend that album, and then you'll go platinum or whatever. But it's so difficult to get through the chatter to find your place and find your audience. But I imagine, I mean, your Facebook page and your website's getting tons of traffic. I'm sure of that because you got a lot of followers right now, right?
Yeah, I would say like right now we're currently at like almost cult following, you know what I mean? Like early New Order or Joy Division style, you know what I mean? Where if you know the project, you know the project, right? And so the momentum's coming in, and people are and thankfully and gracefully people are finding out Post Omnis and that world of music. And like you're not wrong with that. Like the what do you call it? Like almost like the gatekeeping. I hate to
Yeah.
say like that's kind of like pretty much like gatekeeping, but it's essentially how in over, I think it's like 160,000 songs a day get uploaded onto Spotify alone, right? And it's just like, how do you get noticed? And I was like, no, I understand that. I have to sat at that 2 listeners a month number. You know what I mean? And that might be, and I'm just going to throw it out there to all those who are out there listening to this podcast, is that the one thing that I've been telling a lot of my friends is that for us independent artists, it's really important that you, our friends and family, listen to our music and share that with your friends and their friends and so on and so forth, because Taylor Swift doesn't know who you are,
Right.
and she's not going to care if you listen to her music or not. And so it's really important for us independent artists that like our circles and those other layers of the onion, that from the center out, find out about our art, because without that, I mean, that right there is like at the home front, you know what I mean? And then after that, it starts just kind of like a snowball down a hill. It starts gaining momentum and going and going and going. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
that to
and
me
that's
is
I mean, I'm trying to figure out ways to make this podcast launch and get out to the masses and whatnot. And
mhm.
I'm not having a tremendous amount of luck with that, especially starting the second season because I'm getting lousy views right now. This is just not
Oh,
taking off. But I mean, ultimately, I think if we can find ways to get this to go viral and hit the zeitgeist out there,
mhm.
that would give you the push that you need.
Right. But I think that like having that niche of independent artists for independent artists' sake. Like, I mean, that's how I found you actually, is I was just like independent podcasts that have no problems with just having a conversation, you know what I mean? And that's all that artists are looking for, is just like that chance, that moment to have this time, you know?
Yeah.
Um and that's why I'm thankful that like you were even like able to just be like, yes, let's do this. Like as soon as we're able to have like enough, folks to do a season, I'm here for it. And I totally understand and empathize with you, because I too also podcast on the side of making music. Like, you have to have different avenues and different ways of being creative, and so I'm not bogged down necessarily by like the numbers, by the if I love doing it, then I'm just going to keep on doing it despite what anybody else says. And that goes true with like my first album 2008 to today, even like the last album Turn to Stone. I don't think anybody knows of his existence unless if you've happened to listen to the back catalog, and that's fine. Those are the little treasures in life, right? That we get to look back on uh decades from now and go, "Oh yeah, I did that thing." And so I think like for a podcast, it's the same thing, is that it's word of mouth, reputation, and people will know whether or not you're here for the right cause or if you're just doing it to do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think like folks like the big interviewers, like they're just okay, it's just another interview, But folks like you and I, where like we're doing something because we love to do it and we have a passion for the subject matter at hand, that is what people will really cling to, and that right there is the special seasoning.
And
That's the
I agree with
source of
you about that
uncertainty.
because I mean
Yeah.
there's a level of independence to all of this, and
Mhm.
there's a level to cutting your own teeth and doing your own thing and finding your own
Yeah.
wind and making your own waves and doing the only thing that you're going to do just because it's important to do. And it's important to
Yeah.
talk to the independent artists. It's important to talk to these guys that, I was talking. My last two interviews came from New Jersey, and they are these young kids that are just starting
Yeah.
out, and they're growing. And one of them went to the Lake House program in Asbury Park. The other one is an 18-year-old, and he's just
Hmm.
bopping through dingbats, and he's going to the Stone
Yeah.
Pony and stuff like that. And it's like if I'm not going to do it, who's going to give these guys a chance to do it?
Yeah, exactly. If you were around when I was 18 years old, oh my gosh, I don't I would like to think in another universe, 18-year-old Sean had a podcast moment, you know what I mean? When we first started in 2008, in 2006. And I mean, early we both have that perspective of looking back in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
Um the internet was different and social media was different back then, and making your own podcast was not as easy as it is now, and even speaking towards that, is like you said, cutting your own teeth, and like making those purchases that like, okay, I need a computer, I need a microphone, I need a camera, I need lighting, I need, just the simple things, right, in order to do a podcast. And the same would be for like, you know this is the studio space, for me, and it travels everywhere because my music instruments can travel with me anywhere. I can bring this thing onto a deployment for me if I wanted to, and record just right there if I wanted. Oh, by the way, caveat, I got out. I got out of the Navy 10 years. So I'm done
I
deploying.
kind of figured that.
Got the beard going, all that. But like the thing is that like that to me, you don't need to spend $1 million on equipment. Stay within your budget. I think like that's one of the biggest things I took away from 20 years of almost doing this, is you don't really need a whole lot, to execute.
I tell you, I have this microphone right here, which is a Yeti microphone I got for $100. I had the last time I did the last season, I had a one round lighting thing that shone right in my face, and then I had a Canon camera that I was using, and it was so bush league, it was so pathetic. Now I have a green screen, I've got lights that I'm working on, I've got an actual computer working. I've got stuff now because I ran a television station, but it's taken a long time to get to this point.
Absolutely. And again, like the one thing that I have taken away for myself, at least as an independent artist, is that it's not an overnight transaction. This is a longevity. It's essentially like playing with the VA. You know this more than anybody else, right? They play the long game, right?
Right.
And so if you're expecting overnight success, you're going to be heartbroken over that, because no one knows. Like, you're one artist who released 10 songs out of the 160 that get uploaded in a day. You know what I mean? So it's just very important to just be like, in perspective mode, like, I'm doing this for me, and hopefully there's, someone out there, 10, 20 people who enjoy, respect, and care about the art that we're doing here, because we just love to do it,
Well, I'm going to follow you up on this album coming out now, because I've loved the work that you put out thus far, and I want to catch more work from you. But what we have to do is, because Zoom is shutting me down in about 4 minutes, we have to end this thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a couple clips of your music, and then we're going to go to a takeaway, which is, I think I'm going to talk this week is about the being found, and that's the toughest part about being found is the gatekeepers and all this stuff. And this is a thankless, gutless work, but at the same time, to find your own wind and to find your own passage, you have to do what you have to do. So let's do it together, sir, you and me.
And I think you and I both know a lot about thankless jobs, right?
But you were in the Navy. That's got to be the most thankless job there is.
One of, at least.
Well, Shan, it has been so great talking with you, and I want to thank you for joining me today. And I want to thank you guys as well for participating in this thing. And, share this with your friends. Tell everybody about it. Like us on Facebook. Do everything, like every possible way you can find this thing, because that is how we're going to get all of these artists that we have on this show, and we're going to get them found, and we're going to get them to be more successful. So, Shan, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, Christopher. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for watching. Now we got a couple of tracks coming up from Shan Graves. Post Omnis?
Post Omnis, yeah.
Post Omnis. I mispronounced it before. Sorry about that. But Post Omnis is going to be coming up. We got a couple of tracks from that, and then we're going to do a takeaway, and then we'll finish the episode. So thanks for watching, and take a look at this message from Main Street music store on Main Street, which is here in Klamath Falls. And if you need anything, you need guitar strings, you need amps, you need anything that it is involving music, go to the music store on Main Street because they have everything you possibly need. I'm Christopher German. We'll see you right back after these messages. Klamath Falls is a lot of things to a lot of people, but the growing music industry in Klamath Falls is one thing that might surprise you. Thank goodness we have a music store on Main Street to meet the needs of musicians everywhere. A music store on Main Street specializes in services on stringed instruments and pianos. We have the largest selection of in-stock strings in Southern Oregon. Our family-run shop since 2011 has offered internet pricing with small-town service, including new large items like guitars, amps, electric pianos, effects pedals, and more. So stop in today at 1029 Main Street in Klamath Falls or call 541-205-6633. In the year 2026, the term getting discovered has undergone a radical makeover. The old school fantasy where a gravel-voiced AR executive spots you in a smoky club and hands you a multi-million-dollar contract on a napkin is officially a museum piece. Today, discovery isn't a lightning strike, it's climate change. It is the slow, deliberate accumulation of micro moments across a digital ecosystem. If you're looking to break through now, you aren't waiting for a gatekeeper to open the door. You're building your own house and inviting the neighborhood over. In the modern industry, a release date is no longer a single 24-hour event. It is a multi-week narrative. Listeners don't find a song and become fans instantly. They hear a 10-second hook on a TikTok trend, see a rehearsal clip on Instagram a week later, and finally hit save when an AI-driven prompted playlist serves it to them during their morning commute. You are no longer just a musician. You're a creative director. You aren't posting for the algorithm, you are designing moments, lyric breakdowns, get ready with me stories, behind the scenes studio struggles that give the algorithm a reason to favor you. Mass appeal is increasingly rare. Instead, the 2026 industry belongs to hyper-local and hyper-genre moments. We've moved past indie or hip-hop success it's happening in sub-layers. Like Plug It and Be, Afrofuturism, and post-genre blends, you might have 500 fans in London, 300 in Seoul, and 1,000 in Mexico City. In 2026, these pockets of heat are more valuable to a label than 100,000 passive listeners who don't know your name. AI has moved from being a threat to a standard business tool. Labels like Universal and Sony now use AI to screen thousands of digital submissions. They aren't just looking at your voice, they're looking at your engagement velocity, how fast your saves and shares are growing relative to your views. Smart artists use AI to optimize their posting schedules, generate visual assets for Spotify, canvas or even help stem out tracks for remix contests that encourage fan participation. User-generated content, as AI-generated slop floods streaming services, there's a massive market correction happening. Listeners are craving human-only signals. Live performance clips, raw vocal takes, and vulnerable storytelling are the new luxury goods. Independence isn't a stepping stone anymore. It's a destination. The platforms allowing for micro-tipping, digital collectibles, and direct fan subscriptions, a discovered artist in 2026 is often one who owns 100% of their masters and has only 2,000 superfans paying them directly. The bottom line? To be discovered in 2026 is to be unignorable in your own corner. You don't need the world to see you, you just need the right 5,000 people to feel like they know you. And that's the Indie Wave for this week. Thank you so much for watching. And, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, hit that subscribe button on Facebook, fan us, be friends with us, all kinds of good stuff like that. And we'll see you guys again next time. Thanks for watching. God bless. Good night. Do good, sail far, and have fun. I'm Christopher German for the Indie Wave. We'll see you next time.
Closing time blue.